Today we're going to take a look at section 10.5. 10.6 is really nothing for us to talk about, and then we're going to roll into 10.7. But 10.5, we're still going back to the old school C strings, and we want to be able to start to do some more things with C strings, some more of the functions that are written for it. And when I start on page or section 10.5, I see table 10.4, and I see this A to I. And I believe you typed in a code listing where you may have used this, but we have A to I, A to L, and another one that was listed there is A to F. And again, we're looking at A. A is, it's going to be like a C string. So they're using the letter A, and we want to convert it to an integer. So it's the C string to an integer, okay? The C string to L would be a long, and then F is to a double. But why do you think F is being used?
Backed me up for no apparent reason.
What's that?
I don't know, it just backed me out for no apparent reason, so I just joined back.
Oh, okay, good. So we were wondering who we lost and then came back. But what do you think the ATF is? Why the F when it converts it to a double? Well, another word for double that is closely used with it is a float. Okay, so these A to I, A to L, A to F is what we're going to use to convert C string to numeric.
What would happen if you did ATOD or A2D? What would happen then?
Oh, I never tried it. Sounds like something you're going to try for us, right?
Yeah, it's gonna bother me if I don't figure it out.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so just give it a whirl and see what happens. In table 10.5, we're taking a look at a bunch of things that are possibly going to help us when we're dealing with C strings, and it's actually something that hopefully when you read it, because I know you all read, all of a sudden you got a chuckle out of a 2 string. You know, that's a function that we used in 121. It was the way for us to display an object that we had created. It was a method in our class that allowed us to display the object. But what's going on here is 2 string, I could put in an integer like 4, and it would actually convert it to a string object for me. So we could take that and okay, so we talked about it briefly the other day. What if I wanted to go C string to a number? What if I wanted to go number to a C string? So we have examples of that. You had to type in code listing 1010 and some things going on in there. You know, again, we're dealing with the size of the array, making sure we leave one extra in there for the /0, the null character that we're putting in at the end. And we were doing the cin.getlin of an input and a size just because we didn't want to mess up the size. In this program 1010, you see an example of the 2 lower thrown in there, reading in a string at a time, and being able to do some casting. But the big thing coming out of this was in line 24, which total, we had the plus equals A to I of input. Okay. Questions on what we were doing there in 1010. Now, one of the things that we have to be careful of, and that is, and we've seen it before, is the leaving of the carriage return in the buffer. So this is, I'm sorry. Okay, I guess we're good. Okay, so just a note of caution, it comes up here in this section 10.5 when we're reading in the C strings that just always stay alert. And we've said that before about staying alert for that extra carriage return being stuck in there. Okay, section 10.7. .7 now comes into what we're used to, and you're kind of familiar with this, and that's the string class. And once again, our book here in C++ is mirroring our book from Java, but it's an off by one chapter. What I mean by that is back in 121, chapter 9, we looked at two sections. One was the character class, where we did a whole bunch of things with characters and methods that went with them. And then we looked at just the string methods in section 9.3. So being off by a chapter, we're seeing the same kind of pattern here, where we're now in chapter 10 and we're taking a look at the string class and the methods that go along with the string class. You're pretty much familiar with everything that's going on in the string class. You had to type in program 1017, and it was one where you were dealing with stereo parts, and it was kind of a neat program. Any questions? I mean, I feel like what we're talking about today with strings, you're really familiar with, and we should be able to move quickly through it. Now, table 10.6, it's kind of an interesting one. There's other ways that we can define strings, and you start to see where we can give initial values. Let's see, I'm looking at page 583, 585, excuse me, except I have the old edition. Is that the right page for you all, 585?
What exactly are you looking at?
I'm looking at table 10.6 in section 10.7.
6. I have a 10.7.
Is it page 585?
The table I have for section 10.7, I'm applying table 10.7. I'm not.
Okay. I'm looking at 10.6, and the first thing in the table is string address.
Oh, that's on page 595.
595 off
Table
by
10.
10. Okay,
Okay, yeah, they just have it renumbered for ours.
right. And like I said, I wish I would have realized that I had the older edition at home and would have brought a newer edition home with me. But I take a look at that table. Again, whenever Gaddis is doing something, if it's a table or if it's bulleted items, it's usually something good to pay attention to. And you've gotten a pretty good idea of how to read these books. Just different ways to define the strings. Table 10.7 talks about being able to do comparisons of strings. We know that Mark is less than Mary, and we know the difference between lowercase and uppercase and how they work. Some string functions that were big. One was dot length, and we have it again here. We learned it early on in 121, chapter 2 or chapter 3, but we have the string method dot length. It's one of our favorite to let me go through. There is table 10.8, and like me, you all won't remember the tables here, but what you would do is type in string C++ functions, and you could find a website. What's one of the better websites that you come up with when you Google? Was there one that was called C++? Did anybody
Yeah.
ever come across that one? Yeah.
Well, that's where I got that to change the size font. Is on
Okay.
that website.
On
Yeah.
C++. Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff there. But when it comes to all these string functions, you know that they exist because you worked with a lot of it in 121. And yep, they're here again in 161 in C++. And you know how to get to them, how to work with them. One of the ones, dot replace. A lot of you, when you did your phone number program, you use dot replace to replace items. But there's a whole list of string functions that are written for us already that in order to use them, and quick test, pound, include, somebody. Anybody know what it was?
Include string?
Yeah, include string. And again, I do miss my whiteboard and my computer at school. It's a whole lot easier. So one of the things we need to remember is we're going to do the include string. Are there any questions at all? All right, well, my plan is to get you more hands-on again, working with C strings. I mean, this 10.7 string, you should already have this down.
Did
Okay.
we skip over 10.6?
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
we did. Okay. But this 10.7, you should be pretty good with. Have a feel for everything like dot length. The one thing that we really liked back in Java was dot char at. Dot char at. Sound familiar? But we would be able to figure out how to get items here because we've worked with C strings and character arrays. So I'm going to put you in groups. I know. If you don't want to go into your group, you can be a lone wolf. Some of you like that. Some of you like the group. If you don't join, then I'll rearrange your groups to get in groups of threes. But here's what I want you to do. I want you using C strings. I don't know why I have to write this when I already have it written down. Okay. Using C strings, ask the user for the number of students. Okay, 5 students. Read in the name and the 3 test scores for each student. And again, we're using C strings for this, right? Display the name and the average for each student. Display the highest and lowest overall. And display the overall average for the number of students times 3 tests. Now, when I say C strings, I want everything coming in with C strings, even the numbers, because I want you to bring the numbers in and practice the conversion. You know, actually use an A to I to do the conversion. Questions? Questions? How many students? Then you're going to input the students. You're going to do test score. Oh, no, wait a minute. Maybe we ought to. Well, I think everybody understands the math on this one, right? We don't need test data. Yes or no?
I don't think so.
Okay. Functions. Do we need to know functions?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you got going on with what functions would we have? Get num students.
Yeah.
What would be my next thing?
Get test scores.
Okay. I'm going to need a loop, right?
You're going to need to get names as well.
Okay. So once I'm inside the loop, whatever this get num students, you know, this would be num, and I have a loop for that. So what's going on inside of my loop? I need to input
Name.
name and scores. Are we thinking long-term storage or not?
Wouldn't it be long term in case of, or oh I know, I'm thinking different.
Okay.
Long term.
All right, so
Put
we
it
want
all
the,
into an array.
I mean, you could put it in an array if you wanted. We want to display the name and average for each student. Do we want to put that so that it displays at the end? I think so. Display the highest and lowest overall. For this one, I want score, score and student. Okay. Input names and scores. If you want to do that in a loop and that's it, that's fine. Then what? You need to calc averages. You need to,
Find highest and lowest.
yeah. And can we do that with one, or do we need 2 functions to do that? You know, or so lots of different ways we could go here. Remember in Java, when we had our output, with the J option pane, we kept building and building and building a string and did one final output. Could we do something in the sense here where, you know, when I do calc av, instead of displaying how I display, maybe I can build a string. You know, we need the calc average for each student. We need the high and low. And then we need the overall average. Lots of different ways to approach this. And that's why I'm giving you 55 minutes, because there's a whole bunch of stuff that we could do. Questions? Now, if you remember from the last program, I started making comments about making them a little prettier. Some folks are starting to get colors. Some folks are starting to get indenting and centering and some blank lines so that it's not up in the upper left-hand corner. Some folks are even using font size change. Because remember, the old guy's teaching the class, he needs his bifocals to get in there for that small type. It's not so user-friendly. So some of the things we're looking, if you get all this done, I would recommend you try to practice this. See what's going on. Okay, so I'm going to make 4 breakout rooms of 3. If you don't want to join, that's fine. I think you should. And when we're done, you're done. And hopefully I get to see some excitement coming out of this.
Changing the size of text, isn't it just easier to do a control center button? A lot of times I just hit the control center button to zoom it in and out.
Yeah, but if you sell the program to someone, you know, how do you want it to look? And we haven't seen many examples. Ken, you just posted something, right?
Yeah, I posted what I had.
Yeah, and all of a sudden you look at that and you go, yeah, that's a little nicer. It's a little easier to read. Much code, I don't know. But that's what we're looking at.
Okay.
So
Okay,
It's
Jeff?
only
what are
a
we doing
couple
again?
lines of code.
Yeah, you're right, Ken. I'm sorry, somebody else said something?
Yeah, what are we doing again? We're doing a programming challenge?
You're doing what I have written here circled.
Okay.
Using C strings. So we want our input done with C strings. We want a bunch of students, and each student has 3 test scores. I want you to tell me what the student's average is. I want you to tell me who has the highest overall score, who has the lowest overall score, and finally, what's the overall average for the class?
Okay.
Okay, lots of different ways to approach this. I want to see what people do, and hopefully everybody will be posting some things.
Could you make that? I can't really make out.
I'll see if I can enlarge it. Otherwise, I'll take a picture of it and put it on D2L.
Okay.
Okay.
It's just fuzzy. That's all.
Yeah, I know. I don't have the most expensive camera here, and I've tried working at different heights. So here it's still fuzzy. You know, yeah, it's just, you know, I've gotten to a spot where it's the best it can be. But okay, I'm going to create the rooms.
That's going to be a problem, being I have a Mac.
Jeff and Ken, there's
How's it going?
it ends up there's only 2 breakout rooms. One has 3 in and one has 2 in. But I think you 2 make a good pair to work on this.
Okay.
All right.
Yep, I think it'll be good. All right.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, Ken. I'm.
All right, you 3, you guys know what you're doing?
Yeah.
All
Do
right.
when we get the number
Yeah.
of students, can we take that as an integer, or do you want us to take that in
I
a
want you, all is C strings. All of your input is C strings.
okay.
Okay.
All right.
You're gonna upload it.
Yeah, I'll take a picture and upload it.
Okay.
Okay, you folks are good, right?
Yeah, I just want to go over. So we need students' names, and is there like a specific numbers of names?
You're gonna ask in the very beginning how many students there are.
Oh, okay,
Everything you input, I want you to input with C strings.
okay,
Once you find out how many students there are, then you're going to ask for a student's name and their 3 test scores.
okay,
Then the next student's names and their 3 test scores. Then I want to know what's the average for each student, and then what student has the highest test score of all of them, which student has the lowest test score of all of them, and then what's the overall average for the group.
oh, okay.
Okay?
And do you want the total score for the student or no? For not, no, right?
Nope. You need to keep the total so you can find the average.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Okay. Have fun with it.
Wait, wait, what are we looking at? Oh,
Okay. Nicole, I moved you into this group.
Okay, that's
Yeah, I
cool.
think you guys will be good together. Okay.
Each time
Okay.
I try to screen share, it literally just makes my screen black. And for everyone else, don't know what's going on.
Now, when you do start screen share, does it give you options?
It does, but if I click on any of them, it just makes my